Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Civic Minded. Today we're going to be correcting something that I think a lot of people complained about when these cars were new, back in 2014 and 15, at least from what I've seen in the forums. So, this is the screen that the 2014, 2015 higher-end models came with. I think the EX and up got it. I know all hybrids did. This screen added an HDMI port, a USB port there, a USB port in the center console, and Bluetooth, which the car already had. But it deleted the analog aux port, and that's something that I've seen a lot of complaints about on the forums. However, thankfully, support for that aux port still exists in this screen, and it is not impossible or particularly challenging to retrofit it into this car. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Maybe that was more relevant when the car came out. I know that I just got a new phone that does not have an analog headphone output, but if you think about it, I've tried the USB ports in these cars with my Even my preceding smartphone did not work with them, so I couldn't listen to music from my phone, and you're probably thinking, why don't you just use Bluetooth? Well, what if I've got a passenger who wants to listen to music, or wants to play me a song that they think I'll like? What am I going to do then? They can't connect to the car through Bluetooth, otherwise I get kicked off Bluetooth, and that's just bad news. Analog aux could be a good solution to that. Also, if you're old school like I am, you got like an old Walkman, you want to play your cassette tapes in this car, it's a good way to do it. All 2012/2013 models and the non-screen 2014-15s will have an aux port down there, so you don't need to do any of this. This video is only relevant for the 2014-15 models with the screen, nav or non-nav. This is a very easy modification to make. I mean, the last mod I did was not for beginners, but this one, if you're a beginner, definitely this is a good one. So let's get to it. First thing we need to do is we need to remove the radio from the car. Not difficult at all. First part of that is, well, unplug whatever you've got down here and close your power outlet. Open this little storage cubby here, and as you can see, there are two Phillips head screws there. Remove those, and then I'll show you what to do. With those two screws out, next you want to turn your car to accessory 2. Chances are you've got push button start, so push it twice. Then you're going to want to move the shifter all the way to low gear. If you've got the manual, put it in second, fourth. And then you're just going to want to, with this open, grab it, pull it. And if you've got heated seats, mine is kind of stuck. If you've got heated seats like I do, there'll be two cables back here. Just squeeze the tab, unplug them just like that, set this aside. That will reveal access to another set of bolts. We have two Phillips head screws holding the frame on here. And then ignore this little blue box, that's just to make my AC, or that's just to make this car drivable while the AC is in use, because the Civic Hybrid AC sucks. So ignore that, you won't have it. If we come behind it, you'll see there are two 8mm bolts that hold the radio onto the car frame, and I will get rid of the box and show you that. There are the 8mm bolts. Best tool to remove these is an 8mm socket attached to some drive adapters, so you got 1/4 inch to 3/8, 3/8 to half. And just kind of turn them like it's a screwdriver. They shouldn't be on that tight. Well, they need two hands, but you get the idea. Remove those, and the radio will be ready to pull out. With those two bolts removed, go ahead and grab the bottom of the radio, and there's just a series of clips that are holding it in right now, so you see it just popped out like that. Unplug your climate control if you have not done so already, and if you've got the screen, chances are you've got auto climate control. You're also going to have a connector for this sensor and a rubber hose that goes into it, and you're also going to have your hazard connector. So unplug those, and then you're going to want to, well, you'll see when I get the radio out, there's some legs that the radio sits on that you're going to have to lift up over a plastic bar. So before you pull your radio, I would recommend that you unrelease the lever here and pull the steering wheel all the way out and all the way down so the radio has more room to slide out. It will hit the wiper stock, so make sure the car is not on. And then, back here, you can see that, so that's the bar it sits on, and that plastic down there, the legs that I'll show you when the radio is out, those need to go over that, so you're going to want to lift the radio up and over. And then we're going to be unplugging the number of things behind it. So these are the antenna wires, they're easy, you just squeeze the tab on top, pull them out like this. It's very tricky with one hand, but like that. A lot of these are just normal tabbed connectors. Squeeze the tab, pull them out. The HDMI, I think you have to squeeze both, but you'll see what you need to do once you get here. And that big tabbed one down there, you're going to want to get a flathead screwdriver or a plastic pry tool. You see there's a little notch inside the tab there? Hit that notch, slide the tab, or roll the tab rather, and then the connector will be free. So once you've popped that, you'll just roll it, and then you see the connector will come out just like that. Try not to damage it, obviously. But yeah. Here is the aforementioned hazard switch connector, the automatic climate control sensor, and the automatic climate control hose. This hose slides off very easily, so it should slide off when you pull the radio. This one, same style, just squeeze the tab, comes out. The number of connectors you have back here is going to vary depending on whether you have nav, no nav, serious, no serious, but in any case, the one that you want is this tan one right here. It is a 20 position connector. Notice how the pins are kind of shifted depending on which row you're on. That is a JAE trademark. This is a JAE connector, very easy to get. And we actually do not need to splice anything on this connector. All of these wires are going to stay exactly where they are, so we're just going to pin the connector as it is. And here I will show you that in a bit more detail. So here I've got my radio in my kitchen hooked up to a 12-volt laptop charger. It is switched quote-unquote on right now. Of course, there's no sound, there's no broadcast or anything like that because nothing's hooked up. And of course the clock is wrong because the GPS is not connected. But I have also rigged 2 Arduino jumpers into the wires we need, 2 of the wires that we need for the auxiliary. There's the teaser frame right there. So when these wires are shorted together, like this, that's what happens. And then when you unshort them, it goes back to whatever it was set to. I'll show you what that looks like on the aux port. Here's the aux port that we're going to be using. We open this, reveals the 3.5mm connector, and if we turn it around, we notice it actually has 5 pins in the back. Not 3, 5. The aux cable has 3. So what are the extra 2 for? Well, the extra 2 are used to detect when the cable is plugged into the port. So there's a switch in there that the cable pushes, or the 3.5mm connector pushes, that closes the 2 extra pins. And I'll show you that with my multimeter. Here's my multimeter. I have it set so that if I touch the 2 leads together, it beeps, just like that. Here's the aux port with the cable plugged into it, and 2 Arduino jumpers on the extra pins. If I probe those extra pins with the multimeter, or try to while I'm filming, might be kind of tricky. Okay, I cleaned this up a bit to make it easier to see, but if we do this, we have continuity. So these 2 are shorted. And if we unplug, they're not shorted. No beep. So that's how that works. When this gets plugged into the actual radio, these 2 will go to the pins we were shorting earlier. The other 3 will go to some other pins that I will show you later. Actually, I'll show you now. Here's a map of everything that needs to go to everything else. Your aux ground and aux detect, those are the pins we were shorting earlier, and that turned the aux on the screen. The other 3 are just the audio pins that you would get on any TRS connector. If you're doing this with an aftermarket aux connector that doesn't have the detect feature, so it doesn't know when there's something plugged into it, you can still do this. You'll just connect the audio lines, and then on the car, you're going to want to short pins number 19 and 20, the aux detect and the aux ground. That'll make it so that the aux is always available regardless of whether something's plugged in or not. So you'll just always have aux, and you'll always be able to select aux or deselect aux. Here are all the part numbers you may need for this project. There will be more in the description. You're definitely going to need the aux port and the aux connector if you're going OEM, and you might need the car connector if you make the mistake I did later in the video. So before we get to crimping, stripping, pinning anything, it's probably a good idea to figure out what wire path we want, so we know how long we need to make our wires. For that, I'm going to get the ground wire. You can use thread, you can use string. I'm going to use the ground wire and just stretch it along the entire length of where the wire is going to go. So in this case, I'm going to be putting my aux port in the center console here. There's a lot of different places where you could put it. You could put it down here where it is in the 12s and 13s. You can put it in the glove box, and that's where the access is if you want to do that. Very easy. But I'm going to put mine in the center console just so I have... Because your aux port can actually snap into where your USB port is now, so you don't have to Dremel anything or anything like that. I thought you would. And if you want to keep your USB port, don't worry, there's a trick to that. I'll show you that right now. If you're going the center console route, Honda actually makes a part that lets you keep your USB port, so this is the port where the aux is going to go, and for the USB, well, here's the part number for that. It's surprisingly cheaper than what came in the car. And to retain the USB port, I bought one of these little USB port 12-volt outlet adapters on Amazon. I'll leave a link for that. As you can see, if we remove the cover here, there is a USB port in there. And because we're not actually removing the USB port from the car, we'll just plug this end into the factory harness. So we'll essentially have this is essentially an extension for the factory USB wiring. Which now means we need to take some more parts of the car apart, starting with this piece here. This is all one piece, the black and beige. To remove it, once again, make sure you've got anything that's plugged in there, make sure it's out. Remove this little lift up, there's a little notch here. Lift up on that, or remove the pad, and as you can see, there is a single Phillips head screw holding that in. Remove that, then you're going to want to get a pry tool along the edge here, so hereabouts, pry up, and then I'll show you what to do. Okay, so to get this up here, you're going to want to pull your parking brake as high as it will go. Then you're going to want to turn your car on again to position 2, shift into low, and then just push it over like that, and that will reveal, you can put it in park and turn the car off now. That will reveal 3 electrical connectors on the back. One of them is power, one is HDMI, one is USB. USB is the easiest one. It's just a tab, squeeze it, pulls out. HDMI has 2 tabs, I'll have to do that with 2 hands. And then this one, I always have trouble with this one. I think it's a tab on the bottom tab on the bottom you pull out. So HDMI's got 2 tabs on the top and bottom. Just pull them out and then set that piece aside. Next thing we need to remove is the cup holders. For that, open the center console up and have the parking brake all the way up and then just give this a yank. Yeah, just like that. Maybe use a pry tool or use 2 hands, but these just snap in, so you should be able to get them out easy. And just like that, you can pull these up around your parking brake handle, set them aside as well. This is a good time to clean everything, so maybe do that. That is going to reveal this cable. This is the USB cable that goes to the center console. I'm going to make sure that my aux wiring takes that same path. So it looks like it goes underneath the center console. To remove the center console, we got to take these side things out. I've done that maybe 2 other times, and I would probably have to reteach myself. Okay, I thought this was going to be easier snaking access, but it doesn't look like I'm that lucky. So, actually, maybe. I still say we need to take at least this side off. Like I said, I've done that before, so while we're back here, there's a Phillips head screw we gotta remove. I'm gonna remove the other one too, just in case we need to take the left side off. I removed that Phillips head screw, and then we're gonna move back up to the front and remove some more. And this plastic back cover, just get a pry tool under it. Pull it, and it comes right out. Sorry, the original audio for that cut off. With that out, there are 2 black hex/Phillips heads that we need to remove. One here, and then one here. Remove both of those and set them aside as well. Next, there are 2 plastic pop rivets on the passenger side that need to be removed with a pry tool. These are kind of tricky. They're going to want to spin around as you're taking them out, so hold them with one hand, pry with the other. There's one, and the other one is deep down there, and of course, this is where I'm storing everything I'm taking out of the car, so karma, right? But remove those, and this thing should be ready to come out. You see that little notch there? That's where you want to get your pry tool and then pry it outward. Lastly, there are a couple of these pinch clips that are holding the USB cable in. Get a pliers, squeeze those, push them out so you're not pulling the cable out with the panel. Okay, so the little trick to getting that out. There's kind of a notch here that goes around this protrusion here. That will prevent this from being pulled out this way, so you're going to want to lift it up from the front and then pull it out. And then back here, it snaps into the side of the center console, and there's some more tabs down here, so pull those out, it'll come right out. And now we got clear access to our wire. Alright guys, so here's what I did. You can see my black wire down there. I taped it in the back here with painter's tape. Taped it basically along the path of the entire USB wire, up, over, into the big harness, and this made a nice little way to hold the spool, so we got that. Cut the wire to a little bit longer than what you need, so I'm going to cut mine about here, and then we're going to be running a total of 5 wires if you're doing the OEM connector like I am. So cut 5 wires just like that, and I'll show you what to do. Okay, I found a strategy to maybe make that a little easier. So the black wire is the one we pulled the length of. I taped the top and bottom of it to my garage wall. Tape the top of the wire that you're going to cut. Oops, that one's slipping. Make sure it doesn't slip. Okay, so tape it up like that, and then you're gonna want to pull the spool down the entire length of the wire. And that's kind of tricky to do with one hand, but you get the idea. Pull it down, then once you're at that end there, cut it, it'll be the same length. And just like that, we got all 5 at the correct length. I would probably recommend using a ground shield for this. I don't have one, unfortunately, so I'm not gonna, but it's a good idea. So now we just gotta wrap these, get them in the car. Here's what the end result should look like. Try to get a little bit of the bare wire on the end here, or unwrapped wire on the end. I'd say this is about 6-7 feet, maybe 8 feet of wire that you're gonna be dealing with here, so yeah, that's what we want. I think I'm gonna strip these and crimp them inside just so I got better views of that, and so it's easier. You can of course put them on the car first, but I'm gonna go inside and do that. Okay, so we're gonna be using 2 different kinds of crimps for this job, a larger, older one and a smaller, newer one. Smaller, newer one is what's gonna go in the existing wiring harness. Larger, older one is what's gonna plug into the actual aux port. So I'm gonna demonstrate both. I would say if you likely have a shorter and a longer exposed wire, I would say put the shorter one on the aux port, because that's only got 5 and they're all kind of in the same vicinity. So yeah. So first thing we want to do is we want to get a crimp terminal. Just wiggle it like a loose tooth. Pop it out, and I'm going to try to do this better than I did in the other video. Alright, so get your crimp terminal like that. Then you're going to want to, this is the smaller, newer style by the way, then you're going to want to grab the wire, strip about, you see the length, you see how there's a bigger tabs and then a set of smaller tabs, smaller but longer? Strip about the length of the smaller but longer tabs off the wire. So that was about 1/2 centimeter maybe. So maybe that much. Twist the wire strands together so they don't break off. Then you're going to want to insert the stripped wire into the channel here. You see that fit? And then get your crimp tool. Notice this crimp tool has sort of a U shape. You're going to want to open it, and as you can see, this one has 2 different sizes, 18 to 20 and 22 to 24. This is 22 gauge wire. We're going to be putting it in the 22 to 24. Now you're going to want to put it, you see how there's kind of a U shape here? We're going to want to put it so that it is oriented like this, with the tabs facing up. I know it looks like it's supposed to go the other way, but it's actually supposed to go with the tabs facing up. So get that in, and I'm going to need hand-eye coordination for that, so sorry if this is shaky. But just get it in like that. You can use this, you can use the closed tool to kind of center it, and then you're just going to want to squeeze. Maybe squeeze a bit extra if you're dealing with very thin wire as I am, and then you see how that's like wrapped and stuck there. Give it like a pull test, make sure it doesn't come out, and that is solid. So do that 4 more times. Just like that. Now for the larger set, we once again want to break one of them off. These are going to be a little bit easier if you've got big hands like I do. This one has a slightly longer wire channel, so we're going to take off slightly more. I'd say that's about 6 millimeters maybe. I don't have a good eye for these things, so sorry about that, but take off like that, twist together, insert, and you see how the insulation is on the bigger crimp pieces? That's what you want, so, and get that in. Oh geez. Sometimes it's tricky. These are meant to support bigger wires. Maybe I'll use the 1820. Yeah. Yeah, that's the winning strategy. Use the 1820, just like that. Once again, repeat 4 more times. Beautiful. Now let's go put this in the car. And before I forget, let's pin the connector here, the aux connector, just because we got it, makes it nice and easy. Pinout will be up on screen and in the description. So we want to take our wires, insert with the U shape facing up, or is it down? It's down. And just, what on earth? Okay, maybe it is up. Crimp a little bit more if you've gotta, but you should be able to just insert, kinda push in until, and you can see a little window here. You could actually probably get a tiny flathead screwdriver and push that all the way through. Yeah, it's kinda tight, but just push it until you hear a click and that's when you know it's in. And once those are all in, you can simply close this piece like that. Now it's ready to go on the car. Your strategy here is pretty much just to run the new harness along the path of all the existing harnesses and zip tie it. So we got a zip tie there, zip tie there. You're going to be using a lot of zip ties. Zip ties coming down here. Zip tied all along the USB. Then finally coming out back here. Alright, that's in. Let's get this guy pinned. So, to start doing that, there's a little piece of black plastic here. Notice there are some notches on top of it. Get your tiny screwdriver, insert it in there, and pry that piece outward. Careful while doing this that you don't break. These cars are at best 7 years old now, so don't want to break anything. Then I would say hold it like this to pin it. Let me discuss the pinout now. Yeah, I discussed pinouts before, but here they are again. Once again, if you're doing this with an aftermarket aux port that doesn't have a detect feature, be sure to short 19 and 20. So you're going to want to get each of the wires, insert into the appropriate pin, opening down, and then just push in until it clicks, which is very tricky with one hand, but you get the idea. It is now the weekend, and so this is what you should have in the end with the 20-pin connector. You can see all the pins correct. This green one ended up breaking off inside the original connector, so I had to get a new connector on there. So be extra sure that your crimps are strong, do a pull test, do everything, so make sure they don't break off and become impossible to remove from the plastic connector. Anyhow, now that that's in, and we have the wiring in the back of the car done as well, I would recommend that you go ahead and re-plug your radio in and test. Make sure the aux port works, and I will show you what you need to see. Okay, so back in the car playing some nice public domain static. We got the aux port plugged in. If we go ahead and insert our aux cable, like that, oop, hang on, like that, as you can see, the iMid says aux, and the screen says aux. And if we come up to the front, we can even hit the source button, and as you can see, aux is listed. So, everything works. Now it is time to fully mount the aux connector. So, I'm going to remove the center console for that. First we need to empty it, just like that. And if we then remove this carpet here, as you can see, there are two more of those Phillips head bolts. Remove those, then we need to remove this side paneling here, but remove those bolts first and then we'll take this out. What do you know, we actually don't need to take this out after all. If you lift up with this loose, if you lift up on that and then you pull this up, it just detaches. So now we need to figure out how to get this USB cable out of here. Okay, so each one of these little side panels has these tabs here. Those need to lift out of these slots on the center console. Then, for the USB, we need to use a pliers to remove this. And on this end, let's see how that comes out. Haven't done this in a while, so pardon me. Okay, so I think the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the actual housing here by squeezing the side tabs like that. Then, turn the console over, and there are some more tabs that hold the cover on. Not here. There, those tabs. Remove those and take the cover off. That definitely took longer than I thought, but I got it out. As you can see, there's a little tab there that you kind of need to fight, and there is a corresponding tab in there. So, I would say use your pliers to push the beige piece out, and get a tiny flathead screwdriver, like the same one you used to open the connector to pry downward. And that just comes out, and we should be able to pull it out of the center console. Just like that. With the center console out, we need to remove this piece with the one hole that originally had our USB. It is only held in by these two Phillips head screws. Remove those, and then I'll show you what to do. With those out, you should be able to just turn your center console around, open it up and do that. And you see how this one has the one cutout? Here's the one we're going to be installing with the two cutouts. And I put the port in upside down. Nice. Let's fix that first. That just simply snaps in like that. The cable goes through like that. And then the aux port itself can simply snap in like that. When putting the center console back, you'll just plug the aux port in. Very easy. And then put it in with this kind of dangling, and then plug it into your original USB connector and use a couple zip ties or twist ties to hold them together. That looks safe enough to me. I'm not super worried about it. This is not a high current carrying cable. But then you can go ahead and put these two screws back, put the back cover back on. Everything else is already back together. Everything goes back in exactly as you'd expect it to. And then we can go ahead and test it. So to test this system, I got the volume all the way down so we don't get any issues with copyright. I'm going to use my dad's old iPhone here. It's got an aux port and it's got USB that actually works with this car. So very glad he let me hold on to it when I moved. So if we get our USB, we plug it into our USB port here. Change the source, USB lit up, that is a good sign. Hit iPod. Let's see. You'll notice that the music starts playing as it should. And if we get our aux cable, we plug that in. Oh, we shouldn't be hearing that. Huh. Okay, the iPhone audio wasn't really working, so I'm using this instead. Let me turn this down before I get flagged. That is hotel paper. As you can see, the aux port works too, so successful test. And if we pull it, we go back to whatever the last source was, which in our case was the iPhone. Anyway, that's pretty much it. That's how you install auxiliary in a 2014 or 15 Honda Civic. And now, 7 years late, you will not be missing out on that anymore. So, hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment, shoot me a direct message, shoot me an email, aidenscivicminded@gmail.com. And as always, have fun, drive safe, and I will see you in the next one.